The numbers tell a stark story. Red wine, once the toast of China's burgeoning middle class, is in a freefall. Imports have plummeted dramatically over the past 5 years. We are talking about a drop of over 50% in volume since the peak around 2017. This isn't a minor market correction, it's a seismic shift in consumer preference. The once vibrant cellars and retail shelves are gathering dust. The dream of 1 billion Chinese wine drinkers has evaporated, leaving many international producers wondering what went wrong. The decline is consistent and shows no immediate signs of reversal, forcing a painful reckoning within the global wine industry. This decline looks even more dramatic when compared to baijiu. Baijiu is China's national spirit. It is a potent, clear liquor that has dominated drinking culture for centuries. While wine sales have cratered, high-end baijiu sales remain incredibly strong. Brands like Mutai are not just surviving, they are thriving. Their market capitalization rivals that of the world's largest companies. Baijiu is deeply woven into the fabric of Chinese business, celebrations, and social rituals. It is the default choice for toasting, gifting, and showing respect. The resilience of baijiu highlights that the issue isn't a lack of spending on alcohol, but a specific turning away from imported red wine. The contrast between these two beverages is a lesson in cultural economics. Baijiu's strength comes from its deep cultural roots. Red wine's initial boom was fueled by novelty and its association with Western luxury. That novelty has worn off. Consumers are now more discerning and perhaps more nationalistic in their tastes. The market once flooded with French Bordeaux and Australian Shiraz is now contracting. The easy money days of simply exporting any red wine to China are long gone. What remains is a smaller, more knowledgeable but also more skeptical consumer base that is no longer easily impressed by a foreign label alone. So what does this data signal for the future? It signals a maturation of the market, albeit a painful one for wine producers. The initial gold rush is over. Chinese consumers are no longer passive recipients of Western marketing. They are making active choices based on taste, culture, and value. The decline in red wine and the stability of baijiu is not just a trend, it is a powerful statement about identity and preference in the world's second-largest economy. The wine world must listen carefully to what the numbers are saying. It is a story of changing tastes and the enduring power of local tradition. There was a time not long ago when a bottle of French red wine was the ultimate status symbol in China. It was the 2000s and early 2010s. The country was opening up, and its economy was booming. For the newly wealthy, red wine represented sophistication, globalism, and success. It was a tangible piece of the aspirational Western lifestyle. Displaying a bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild at a banquet was a powerful statement. It said you were modern, wealthy, and connected. It was less about the taste of the wine and more about the message it sent. Wine was a prop in the theater of social climbing. This perception was carefully cultivated. Luxury brands invested heavily in marketing wine as an elite product. They hosted lavish dinners and exclusive tasting events. They associated their wines with art, history, and European aristocracy. This narrative resonated with a generation eager to showcase their newfound prosperity. Gifting expensive bottles of red wine became a common practice in business and government circles. It was a sophisticated way to build relationships and curry favor. The red color was also considered auspicious in Chinese culture, adding another layer of appeal. The bottle was more important than the liquid inside. However, this foundation built on status was unstable. As consumers became more knowledgeable, they began to question the value proposition. The anti-corruption campaign initiated by the government around 2013 also played a major role. Extravagant gifting and lavish banquets were suddenly frowned upon. This severely curtailed the use of high-end wine as a business tool. The market for ostentatious luxury goods took a massive hit, and red wine was caught in the crossfire. Its identity as a status symbol became a liability. The very thing that made it popular was now contributing to its decline. Today, the ultimate status symbol has reverted to what it always was: premium baijiu. A bottle of aged Mutai now carries far more social currency than a bottle of Bordeaux. It signals an appreciation for Chinese heritage and a deep understanding of local customs. It connects the drinker to a tradition that is authentically Chinese. The shift from foreign wine to domestic spirit reflects a broader trend of growing cultural confidence. Chinese consumers are no longer looking to the West for validation. They are embracing their own traditions, and the beverage world is a clear reflection of this powerful cultural movement. One of the biggest hurdles for red wine in China is the food. The Western concept of wine pairing is based on a culinary tradition that is fundamentally different from Chinese dining. Western meals often feature a single main course, making it easy to choose a wine that complements it. A steak pairs well with a Cabernet Sauvignon, a piece of fish pairs well with a Sauvignon Blanc. This logic breaks down at a Chinese dinner table. A typical meal involves a wide array of dishes served simultaneously. There might be spicy Sichuanese fish, sweet and sour pork, savory dumplings and stir-fried vegetables all on the table at once. How does one pair a single wine with such a diverse and complex palette of flavors? The answer is, you can't, not easily anyway. A bold red wine that might go with one dish will clash horribly with another. The delicate, communal and varied nature of Chinese cuisine resists the rigid rules of Western wine pairing. The flavors are too broad, ranging from spicy and numbing to sweet, sour and umami. Baijiu, on the other hand, is a much better fit. Its strong, clean flavor acts as a palate cleanser, cutting through the richness of the food without competing with the individual dishes. It resets the palate for the next bite. Drinking customs also present a major challenge. In the West, wine is typically sipped slowly throughout a meal. It is meant to be savored and contemplated. Chinese drinking culture, especially in social or business settings, is very different. It is centered around toasts. The custom of ganbei, which literally means dry the glass, involves downing a small glass of alcohol in one go. This is a sign of respect and camaraderie. Trying to ganbei a glass of full-bodied tannic red wine is not a pleasant experience. It is simply the wrong beverage for this kind of rapid, high-volume consumption. Baijiu is perfectly suited for ganbei culture. It is served in small shot-like glasses, making it easy to toast frequently without becoming overwhelmed too quickly. This ritual is central to building relationships and conducting business. Red wine served in large glasses and meant for sipping feels awkward and out of place in this context. It slows down the rhythm of the meal and disrupts the flow of social interaction. The cultural mismatch is profound. Wine was an imported product, but it was also an imported set of customs that never fully integrated with local traditions. You know, the initial popularity of red wine in China was inextricably linked to its high price. In a market driven by status, expensive basically meant good. Most consumers who really didn't have deep knowledge of wine used price as their primary guide to quality. So, an expensive French wine was just assumed to be superior to a cheaper one, no matter its actual taste or origin. This created a bubble, where importers and distributors could slap enormous markups on even pretty mediocre wines. The real goal wasn't to sell a beverage, but to sell a luxury good. The price tag was, honestly, the most important feature of the bottle. This led to a pretty distorted market. Many consumers came to believe that all good wine had to be expensive, and that red wine was just inherently a luxury product, not something for everyday drinking. This perception was reinforced by the kinds of wines that got heavily marketed, prestigious Bordeaux and other famous appellations. The idea of a simple, affordable table wine to enjoy with a weeknight dinner, well, that never really took hold. Wine was for special occasions, for showing off or for gifting. It just wasn't part of the daily routine for the vast majority of people. But as the market cooled and consumers became more educated, this price bubble started to burst. People began traveling more, visiting vineyards in Europe and Australia, and they saw that a decent bottle of wine didn't have to cost a fortune. They started to realize they'd been overpaying for years, which led to a sense of disillusionment and, honestly, even some resentment. The same high prices that once signaled prestige now just felt like a ripoff. Consumers became more price-sensitive and skeptical of the claims made by wine marketers. They started looking for real value, not just a high price tag. So the decline wasn't just about culture, but also about economics. The industry had built a palace on a foundation of inflated prices and consumer ignorance, and when that foundation crumbled, the whole structure began to wobble. The perception of wine shifted from being an aspirational luxury to an overpriced and somewhat old-fashioned beverage. A lot of consumers felt the wine industry had taken advantage of them. And this erosion of trust is really tough to repair. The market is now paying the price for that short-term thinking, which prioritized high margins over building a sustainable wine-drinking culture. The dramatic rise and fall of red wine in China, well, it offers some crucial lessons for the global wine industry. The most important lesson is that culture just can't be ignored. Simply exporting a product isn't enough. You really have to understand and respect the culture of the consumer. The industry kind of assumed that Western drinking habits could be easily transplanted to China, but it failed to appreciate the deep-rooted traditions of ganbei culture and the unique demands of Chinese cuisine. Future success will depend on adapting both the product and the message to fit the local context instead of trying to change the context to fit the product. Another key takeaway is the danger of building a market solely on luxury and status. Sure, that can lead to rapid initial growth, but it's just not sustainable. Tastes change, economies fluctuate, and anti-corruption campaigns can happen. A market built on genuine appreciation and everyday consumption is far more resilient. The industry really needs to shift its focus from selling wine as a status symbol to promoting it as an enjoyable beverage for a wider range of occasions. That means educating consumers about value, variety, and food pairing in ways that are relevant to their lives, not just echoing Western norms. This might mean, a pivot away from heavy tannic red wines. Lighter reds, crisp whites, and sparkling wines often pair much better with the diversity of Chinese food. White wine in particular has been overlooked but actually holds great potential. Its refreshing acidity can cut through oily dishes and complement seafood beautifully. The industry needs to break the red wine as the only serious wine myth that it helped create. Promoting a wider variety of wine styles at accessible price points is honestly essential for building a broader and more stable consumer base. The future of wine in China may be less red than the industry had hoped. Ultimately, the story of wine in China is really a story of a market maturing. The initial frenzy is over, and what's emerging is a smaller but more authentic wine scene. Consumers are more knowledgeable, curious, and confident in their own tastes. They're exploring wines from different regions and at different price points. They're integrating wine into their lives on their own terms. For the wine industry, this is both a challenge and an opportunity. The brands that succeed will be those that listen, adapt, and treat Chinese consumers not as a target for luxury goods, but as partners in a shared appreciation for wine.